and spending time on this simple and yet challenging dichotomy of understanding things in non-dual perspective. Non-dual perspective fancies the world today because it is our inherent attribute. It is an inherent tenet that human beings are born with, and yet we don't know about it. And that is why that inherent, intrinsic attribute, quality that I'm born with attracts me to it. And that's why non-dual topics are always going to be intriguing, interesting, inspiring, and inquisitiveness will be born out of it again and again. Because unless we go back to the source, we cannot understand the existence of our own self. To draw a parallel, if you were to look at a tree 100 years old, or if you were to look at a plant just sprouting a day before, can we really understand the genesis of that tree or of that plant unless we know that the roots are being created in the ground today, which is making this plant sprout? And we dig deeper to know that the roots are being caused by a seed that created the root to grow. Similarly, that seed is our inner core. That seed is our inherent nature, which resides within us, in us, part of us. And when I say part of us, in us, inherent, it doesn't mean a physical bodily definition. It means an intrinsic, inner self of myself, which unfortunately I recognize as a body. So having said all that, we must understand that my functionality is mundane, my physicality is mundane, my definitions are mundane, the way I describe and I prescribe my own life is totally mundane. It's worldly. My definitions are based on worldly things. My life is driven by objects around me. That alone is my definition. An object can be my body. An object can be my PhD degree. An object can be my bank balance. An object can be my not being so well and my having contracted some disease. All those are objects. Jealousy is an object. Hatred is an object. Praise is an object. Anger is an object. So having understood that, I wanted to address a question that was recently raised by a devotee. And I'm going to read that and then try and attempt to clarify that. So the question paraphrased by the devotee was, if choices are due to cause and effect, if choices are due to cause and effect, almost meaning they have been made, how do I know what's the best for me? Let me read that one more time, absorb it. If choices are due to cause and effect, almost meaning they have been made, how do I know what's the best for me? Now, the questioner is saying that if everything is because of the karma yoga, it is because of the cause and effect. It is already determined. Karan hetu, phala hetu. Because of the result is because of something. Just as we talked moments ago, the roots are because of the seed, and the plant growing is because of the roots, and because of the stem, the branches and the leaves. So there is a cycle that's continuing. So cause and effect, the question the devotee is asking, if my life is already carved out, because of the cause and effect of my previous births, referring to karma yoga here. Decisions are already made for me. Then how do I know what is best for me? So the question is clear and yet confusing, because the questioner is thinking that he or she still is going to determine what is best for me. And that needs to be understood. First of all, we understand cause and effect, that everything that happens in my life, the mode of my life, the current things of my life, is because of what transpired in cascades of previous births. And that is what has carved out my current life. Having said that, I really don't have a choice in the way my life is shaping up. The way my life is being conducted is already carved out. So when I understand that, the question, what is best for me, will automatically drop off, because I don't really choose the best or worst for myself. I attempt to choose the best, but I don't have a control over it. And I don't know if I'm mundane enough. Here is the clarity about why I don't need to know what is best. As long as I'm mundane in my practice, which most of us are, predominantly we are mundane, then if I'm mundane, I always think in terms of things that become better for me in my own definition, such as my bank balance increased, or I got a promotion, or I found a very nice partner, or I got a great opportunity to do something. But all those are mundane effects and mundane results, mundane activities. And therefore, I don't need to really define best or not so good or little bad or worse. I can get beyond that, and I will get beyond that when I become spiritual. Because when I'm spiritual, I begin to absorb the cause and effect of my life as if that is the best for me. Whatever is happening for me is the best course of action, charted out, choreographed, carved out by that ultimate reality that has shaped my life and the lives of 8 billion other people. And not only 8 billion humans, but billions and billions of other living creatures on the planet. And not only the planet, but 706 billion galaxies and 70 million planets and hundreds of millions of many other stars and things like that I don't even have a comprehension of. All I know about the cosmos and the size of the cosmos is only 0.01%. 99.99% is unknown or unknowable. When I have that spiritual clarity, I begin to understand the minusculeness, the dwarfness, the smallness, the pettiness of my thinking of what is good or bad for me. There is nothing good or bad. There is nothing that I can really change, but I must make the effort to always make things better. That is my responsibility towards whatever faith I believe in, whether I call it the Almighty, whether I call it heaven, whether I call it some energy or whatever. But I have some faith, and that is what I should only strive for. When I'm mundane, I begin to think that certain things were not good for me, and why did God do that for me? Because I'm mundane in my total understanding. When my understanding becomes wholesome, my understanding becomes ripe, paripakwa, then I do not ever think that anything that seems to be untoward in the worldly sense is not good for me. Let me say that again. If I think that something is happening which I consider to be untoward in the mundane sense, such as a divorce, such as a loss of a family member, such as a loss of a big purse, financial purse, loss of money, all that are mundane definitions. And if I'm spiritual, even when that happens, when that untoward event happens, I do not feel sad or depressed because I know that that was the best course of action that was charted out for me to understand myself in this particular small, short span of 80, 90, or 100 years of life. That is the way to understand it. That's the only clarity we need. And once we have that clarity, we become part of that cosmic energy. We become part of that reality that we are seeking. And when we begin to touch that reality, take note of my words. When we begin to take note of that reality, we begin to experience self-realization. We begin to see the glimmer. We begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this crazy, cursed, mundane life. And we begin to see the horizon of self-inquiry. We begin to see the whiteness of that spotless white spot called reality that alone is. And that's the only clarity. We do not have to worry about cause and effect. We do not have to worry about good or bad or best or better. We just have to repose with what we have as the only blessing. That's the clarity. That's the only answer. Jai Arunachala.